So, please, someone let me know when you can see my screen.
All good.
All right, thank you. All right. So, what is Defender for Cloud actually? For those who are new to that, so Defender for Cloud is Microsoft CNAPP, or Cloud Native Application Protection Platform. It's a set of capabilities that are designed to protect your cloud-based application from various security threats and vulnerabilities. Defender for Cloud kind of includes three pillars. One is the DevSecOps solution that helps you implement good security practice during your software development cycle, or DevSecOps. So the second pillar is Cloud Security Posture Management, or CSPM, that provides you recommendations and actions that you can take to improve your overall cloud security posture and prevent potential security issues. And the last piece is a Cloud Workload Protection Platform, where we provide specific protection for different workloads, like servers, containers, stores, databases, and so on. So our agenda for today is to cover what we've developed and added to Defender for Cloud platform in Cloud Security Posture Management and Cloud Workload Protection. So this is not going to be like all in coverage. So we're going to focus on just major updates, because we have a lot of things going on in Defender for Cloud development, but we're going to focus on the major updates that we've made over the last 3 months. And if time allows in the end, so we're going to answer your questions. But at the same time, during this presentation, feel free to ask your questions using our chat window. So we're joined by our NDC team that will be answering your questions live in the chat window. All right, so here's what we have today for Cloud Security Posture Management piece. So first, we're going to discuss the Defender CSPM support for GCP Cloud, which is currently available for public preview. Then we're going to talk about the data-aware security posture capabilities in Defender for Cloud that are now generally available. Then we'll briefly talk about agentless scanning for virtual machines. This capability is part of the agentless scanning feature set, which is available in Defender for Servers P2 plan and also Defender CSPM plan. And then we're going to take a look at the new workbooks that we've created to help you visualize different data, I would say, that Defender for Cloud generates, and that can help you really work with that data. And then we're going to talk about agentless container posture in Defender CSPM, which is now also generally available. So with that, I'm going to switch to my demo, because it's worth seeing everything than just talking about that. So first thing is Defender CSPM now covers Google Cloud. This is something that we released for public preview earlier this month. As you probably know, that Defender CSPM plan has been around for several months now, available for Azure Cloud and AWS, but now it's also available for GCP. So where you can find that, so you need to first create a connector to your GCP environment, and as part of the connector creation process, you will be able to select which Defender plans you want to use. And now you can see actually this Defender CSPM is available as an option that you can enable and disable. So this plan includes the same, pretty much the same capabilities that are available for other clouds, namely Cloud Security Explorer for risk hunting, regulatory compliance, GCP storage, scanning for sensitive data. We'll get to that in a moment. Attack path analysis experience, and some other capabilities. So, which means now we have coverage across all three major cloud providers. So once you enable that, so there is some, of course, configuration process needed during the connector creation. So it's all covered in the documentation. We're not going to go that deep. So please feel free to take a look at our documentation. But so once everything is configured and Defender for Cloud start scanning your GCP environment, you'll be able to see the GCP resources in using Cloud Security Explorer, because as you probably know, that Cloud Security Explorer experience is part of the Defender CSPM plan. Now actually you can see various GCP-related workload types here, like for example GCP storage buckets. So we can search for and see what kind of GCP storage is available for us. So, and we can get some additional information about that. Attack path analysis. If Defender Cloud detects some lateral movement opportunities for the attackers, we will create an attack path for that. Like for example, in my demo environment, I see this attack path which says GCP buckets contain sensitive data and it's publicly accessible. So that's a definitely security risk. And also as part of this experience, you will get some additional information in the inventory view. You can see this GCP resources here. So the next thing I wanted to talk about is data-aware security, which is now generally available. By the way, so worth mentioning that Defender CSPM for GCP is currently in public preview phase, meaning that it's available without additional charge. So you can basically start evaluating that, testing that without paying. So we don't have yet a concrete date for the for GA. So we will keep you posted, using our various communication channels on that. So next thing what we wanted to talk about is data-aware security. So data-aware security capabilities in Defender for Cloud allows you to scan your now multi-cloud storage, Azure storage account, AWS S3 buckets, GCP storage, and discover sensitive data and those resources. And by sensitive data, I mean like various PII data, financial data, and to kind of give you visibility into if you have any sensitive data, first of all, in the first place, stored in that storage. But if there are any risks associated with that sensitive storage, like for example, storage accounts exposed to the internet and things along those lines. So once you enable these data, and by the way, data-aware security capabilities available as part of the Defender CSPM plan. So in order to start using that, you need to enable Defender CSPM plan and make sure that you have a sensitive data discovery extension or feature, if you call it, on. So once you've enabled that, so we will start scanning your, in this case, Azure storage. And this similar configuration is available for AWS connectors and GCP connectors. Defender CSPM here. And as the result of that scanning, so if Defender for Cloud detects any sensitive information in your storage, you can use Cloud Security Explorer first to see that the scan result. For instance, I want to say, all right, show me, let's say, AWS S3 buckets and GCP storage buckets that contain sensitive data. And if I click search, if Defender for Cloud discovered any sensitive information, you will see some results here. But for example, in my environment, I do have 4 GCP buckets where Defender for Cloud discovered some sensitive information, in this case, some secrets, and we show the file names. We do not collect the sensitive information itself. We're just pointing you to the location, so where it's located. So we're delivering a dedicated deep dive webinar on data-aware security posture management, or this data sensitivity discovery capabilities in the beginning of October. So if you're interested in learning more, please join us. So we will walk you through all the experience of onboarding, configuring, understanding the scanner results of that capability. So I'm really looking forward to seeing you in that webinar in the beginning of October. All right. The next thing we wanted to talk about today is secret scanning. Like I already mentioned, secret scanning is available as part of the Defender for Service P2 plan, as well as Defender CSPM. And so with this scanning capability, so what we can do, we can discover various secrets stored on your virtual machine. So this capability is currently available for Azure VMs, AWS EC2 instances, and in limited form for GCP VMs. So we're working on making sure that we get the full coverage across VMs, so the same detections across all providers. So yeah, like I said, so this agentless secret scanning capability allows you to discover various secrets, for instance, Azure storage account connection streams, SQL connection streams, SSH private keys, and some other credentials that potentially were left behind on those virtual machines by administrators, workload owners, and some other reasons. Because those secrets introduce a significant risk, right? Because if those resources are compromised, the potential bad actor can use those secrets to access other resources in your environment. So once you enable that agentless scanning, so first thing you need to do is to make sure that you do have that agentless scanning capability enabled in Defender CSPM. So this is in this extension, agentless scanning for machine should be on, right? Make sure you need to make sure that it's on. The same thing for the connectors, AWS or GCP. So you need to make sure that its agentless scanning is enabled there. And then, so once all this configured, so how can you see the results? So basically, when we do detect some secrets, Defender for Cloud will generate a recommendation saying machine should have secrets findings resolved. All right, so you can go there and see all the secrets that we've discovered. For instance, in my environment, I see that we've Defender for Cloud discovered some insecure SQL connection stream and some storage set tokens and so on and so forth. So you can click that any of those items and see the details, right? So what's the problem? What are affected resources? For instance, in my case, I see Azure Virtual Machine, where we found Azure SQL connection stream, and can drill down and see actually what file contains that secret. And I can go even further and get some secret detail. So this actually brings me to the this machine's resource health page, where you can see all these secrets that Defender for Cloud discovered on that machine. And what is also interesting, so we are not just detecting or finding those secrets, we're also verifying that those secrets are valid. So basically, Defender for Cloud tries to use those secrets to connect to the resources. Like for instance, see in my case, it's saying that target resource detected false, meaning that because that was a totally dummy, credentials. So in this case, see the connection result was false, meaning that we were not able to use that secret to connect to that other resource. But sometimes we do see that, like for instance, see this is the Azure SQL connection string. I just made up those names when I was creating that file, meaning that the Defender for Cloud was not able to even find this database, not saying it connect to that. That's why the connection result was failure, I think. All right. So this is a pretty exciting capability, in my opinion. So I really encourage you to start evaluating that and sharing your feedback. So, and we're working on adding additional, credential types to this list of secrets that we are able to detect. So, all right. The next topic I wanted to talk about is the new workbook. Workbooks, I would rather say. Let me bring another dashboard here. So the first workbook I wanted to kind of highlight is one of the built-in workbooks. As you probably know, in Defender for Cloud, we have a library of built-in workbooks that are available out of box for every single Defender for Cloud customer. So those are there. They have this purple icon, and we have community workbooks. I would say those workbooks that you can either create yourself or you can download them from various resources, including our GitHub repository. So I want to ask my team to share the link in the chat, so to our GitHub repository and the specifically workbooks location, where you can find, in addition to workbooks, you can find various other artifacts that can help you with working with Defender for Cloud. So you can find various scripts, automation, additional documentation, as well as workbooks. Right. So the first workbook I wanted to show, which we added not long time ago, which is API security. As you probably know, earlier this year, we added a new Defender plan, which is Defender for APIs. That allows you to protect your APIs, right? Various APIs exposed by your cloud applications. And the Defender for API is currently available for public preview, and it allows you to, first of all, get some recommendations of how to improve the security of those APIs, and also detect various threats or attacks against your potentially publicly exposed APIs. And to help you work with the information provided by Defender for API, we created this workbook that, first of all, visualizes what's happening with your APIs. You can see the hardening recommendations, how to improve the security of your APIs. And also you can see if there are any ongoing attacks against your APIs. We even have this nice map. So if you're a global company and you have applications deployed across various regions, you'll be able to see those APIs on that map. So it's pretty cool, in my opinion. And you will see the different types of alerts that Defender for API detected for your APIs. So I would encourage you to take a look. That workbook I wanted to talk about is it's a community workbook that was created by my colleague, which is Defender CSPM, I would say, the workbook. So it's also kind of visualizes in a very nice way all the information that is collected or generated by Defender CSPM plan. So you can see, first of all, status of DSPM, Defender CSPM plan enablement across your multi-cloud environment for Azure and for the connectors, AWS and GCP connectors. So you see this kind of nice view of all these risks that Defender CSPM discovered. You can see some also information about how other Defender plans are enabled for your subscription. But then you can switch to more interesting things like attack passes that Defender CSPM discovered. I see how many of those, and you can drill down and see exactly what's happening. So that's pretty nice, easy to use way, because it's, first of all, it's provided you like a summary, and you can see all this in one single page. And then you can go to the remediation phase and see what the recommendations needs to be implemented to improve your overall security. And speaking of different data-aware security capabilities, so this workbook also provides you like aggregated view of all that sensitive information that Defender for Cloud, if you have sensitive data discovery enabled, what we found across your environment. So see this number of credit card numbers and so on and so forth. And we also show you these, nice details, which files, the locations of those files, where we found that sensitive information. So it's very nice, easy to use workbook. I really encourage you to give it a shot and share your feedback. So with that, I'm going to pass the mic to my partner in crime and friend and our Defender for Containers subject matter future. The floor is yours. Thank you.
Yep. Thank you, Stan. So as Stan mentioned, I will be going over some updates around Defender for Containers, as well as the agentless container security posture. But before we do that, I do want to share the agenda here for CWPP. So as I mentioned, I'll go over the additions that we added for agentless container security, as well as the change to MDVM in Defender for Containers and Defender CSPM. We'll also look at the direct onboarding for Defender for Servers, talk a bit about the express configuration for vulnerability assessments in Defender for SQL. You'll also see here this mention for malware scanning and Defender for Storage. So the billing will start September 1st. We do have a dedicated webinar on Defender for Storage that's coming up in the next couple of weeks. So I do invite you to join that webinar and learn more about our Defender for Storage offering and the malware scanning. And then lastly, I'll end with some changes to the service layer protection plans in Defender for Cloud. So I'll go ahead here to the Defender for Cloud portal.
Sorry to interrupt, but you're not sharing, just so you know.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
No worries.
Yeah, perfect. Can you see my screen now?
Yeah, yes, perfect.
Okay, great. Yeah, so this was the agenda that I mentioned, but I'll go ahead and jump into the portal here so that we can get started with today's demo. All right. So the first thing that I mentioned was the agentless container posture, which is part of Defender CSPM that recently became generally available. So when you go to environment settings, which I've already done in Defender CSPM, and then the monitoring coverage here, you'll notice that we have these two toggles in the middle that are for container security. The first one is agentless discovery of Kubernetes, which is really allowing us to detect your Kubernetes clusters as well as the data plane, including cron jobs, services, and ingresses on the cluster, using a managed identity that's created in your environment. And then the second toggle that you'll notice here is for container registries vulnerability assessment scanning. So this is an agentless scanning for your Azure container registries to detect any vulnerabilities that exist on the image. And you'll notice that we recently released the MDVM scanner, so Microsoft Defender Vulnerability Management, that's available for you to use in Defender CSPM. So if we take a closer look at what these two features entail for Defender CSPM, with agentless discovery for Kubernetes and the container registries vulnerability assessment scanning, we're able to integrate with the existing Defender CSPM capabilities, which includes the attack path analysis and the Cloud Security Explorer. So first, we'll start with the attack path analysis. And as Stan mentioned before, attack path analysis are lateral movements that an attacker could take to gain access into your environment. And we're showing you different Kubernetes and container security related attack paths using those two features that I first mentioned. So you see here that we're able to detect the AKS cluster, and we're able to detect the different resource types that are related to this attack path. So as you can see here, this is actually detecting any internet exposed pods that are running a container with high severity vulnerabilities. So we start out by detecting, of course, the cluster, and then we show you the target, which is the container that's running the image with high severity vulnerabilities. And you'll see within the attack path that there's different resource types involved that we call out. So as you can see, this includes the service, the VMSS or the node and the ingress, namespace, pod, container image, and the AKS cluster. And then to remediate this attack path, we show you the applicable recommendation here, which is reporting on the vulnerabilities that were discovered on the container image. And in this case, you'll see container registry images should have vulnerability findings resolved. And we'll actually take a closer look at this recommendation later on in the presentation. So again, attack path is one thing that you'll get with agentless container security in Defender CSPM. And then the other thing here is the Cloud Security Explorer. So with Cloud Security Explorer, you can do different advanced hunting for your AKS cluster and detect different Kubernetes related scenarios. And I've already gone ahead and ran one of the templates that we have here in the Cloud Security Explorer, but to break down a little bit of how it works. So this is an interactive query, meaning that you don't need to know KQL or any other query language. You can go through here and you'll see with containers, we have different parts of the cluster that you can query, which includes the data plane here. So I've gone ahead and selected pods, and in this case, it's looking at a pod that's running a container, and then on that container, it has an image that has a high severity vulnerability. And then when I click search here, it gives me all the results for that match this query here. So I can see the pod, the container, and I can see the name of the image as well as the specific CVE that's called out here in the high severity vulnerability. So this is just one example of the many things that you can query with the Cloud Security Explorer in terms of different Kubernetes related scenarios. So of course you can check out the templates that we have in here and build your own query as well to discover different scenarios. So we looked at the attack path analysis in the Cloud Security Explorer. And I mentioned before that Defender CSPM and agentless container security posture also includes the agentless scanning by Microsoft Defender Vulnerability Management. And to get the results of the vulnerability scanning, you'll notice them in the recommendations blade, and I've already gone ahead and navigated there. So when we go to remediate vulnerabilities, you'll see here that we have these two recommendations. So container images should have vulnerability findings resolved, and running container images should have vulnerability findings resolved. And you'll notice that these two recommendations here, one of them is looking at the ACR level, and then the other one here is looking at the cluster level. So when we take a look at these recommendations, you'll notice some enhancements that we've added here with MDVM. So the first one is the freshness interval, where we're able to do rescans every 24 hours and discover any newly added images in the registry. You'll also notice here that we're reporting by CVE ID, and we're able to clearly call out any critical severity vulnerabilities that were detected on the ACR. So if we look at the specific results here, we're still providing you the same background information in terms of the description, some general info about the CVE, and the package and vendor for this CVE, but you'll notice some additions. So the first one is exploitability. And essentially here, we're telling you, one, has there been any exploit steps published for this CVE? And have those exploit steps been verified? And lastly, does this CVE exist in an exploit kit? And we also tell you the type here for the exploitability. But essentially, in the case that any of these different fields were to say yes or true, then we would also show you a reference to different sources like exploit DV or CSPM, where we show you where we got the information for this exploitability for these fields to be true. So that's a look at some of the updates here that we've provided for MDVM. If we take a look back into the portal, there was another recommendation that I mentioned, which is looking at the runtime scan. So in this case, we're actually we're reporting the CVEs that are relevant to images running on the cluster. So this would be another way for you to prioritize remediation by focusing on vulnerabilities that are applicable for images currently running on the cluster. And you'll notice here that this refreshes every 24 hours. So you'll see here again that we report the CVE and severity, and it's really the same experience here in terms of giving you the description, the background information on the CVE and the package and vendor, and you get the same exploitability information here as well. Now, with the release of MDVM and Defender CSPM, and Defender for containers, we've also gone ahead and updated the container security workbook. So this is the same workbook blade that Stan was showing you, and I went ahead and navigated to the container security workbook, which is out of the box. And you'll notice here that we've differentiated between the vulnerability scanning for MDVM and for Qualys. And we provide the same for the runtime scanning. But you'll see we show you an overview of the vulnerabilities that were detected by severity. So you can see a breakdown of the number of high, medium, critical, and low severity CVEs detected on all of your ACRs. And then one cool thing that we've added here is an overview of any vulnerabilities that are verified to be exploitable. So we break this down by showing you the ACR, the vulnerability ID. Again, you'll see the severity. We also report if there's a fix available for this severity, or if there's a fix available for this CVE. And then most importantly, we show you at a glance, which one of these fields reported true. So in this case, you'll see that for a lot of these CVEs here, the exploit steps were published. You'll also see that with this CVE, we've detected it in an exploit kit. So this is really a way for you to see at a glance all the CVEs in your environment that are exploitable. And then we continue to show you here a breakdown of really everything that we detected on your registry. So you can select a specific registry in the resource group, and then you can even take it a step further and select the repository. Sorry, not the, let's see, you can take it a step further and select the repository. And then from there, select the specific CVE. And then again, we show you that overview of the CVE. And also we provide different reference links as well that provide you additional information on the CVE. And the same thing is available for the runtime results. So you'll see here for AKS runtime and DVM, we gave you that same overview of the severities the same overview of the vulnerabilities by severity, and then also the exploitable vulnerabilities that were detected. And then from there, you can also drill down at the cluster level here. So that's a look at the reporting that we have for the vulnerability assessment scanning. So I mentioned before that within Defender CSPM, these capabilities are generally available. But you'll also notice here that they're also available in Defender for containers. So you can get the same experience with the MDVM scanning in Defender for containers. And you also have access to the agentless discovery for Kubernetes in Defender for containers. And with the agentless discovery for Kubernetes, we're also giving you access to the Cloud Security Explorer to do the advanced hunting for any Kubernetes security related scenarios. So that's a look at what we released from the container side. I also want to discuss the direct onboarding. So when you go to the environment settings blade here, you'll notice that we've added this tab, and this is for direct onboarding. So what with the customer feedback that we've received in the past is that, when you have these on-premises servers or non-Azure servers that are already onboarded to MDE and have the Defender for Endpoint Agent installed, it's a bit cumbersome to add an additional agent, in this case, Azure Arc. And many customers do not like having to deploy multiple agents on their servers. So this is really the premise of the direct onboarding with Defender for Endpoint capability. It allows organizations to seamlessly integrate their servers, their non-Azure servers that already have the Defender for Endpoint agent, integrate them into Defender for Cloud. And this is being configured here at the tenant level. So you'll see here that once you click this toggle, which turns on the capability, you would select a designated subscription. And essentially, this subscription is really just a place for you to, this subscription is really just used for billing and for you to see the resources that you've onboarded with direct onboarding. And you'll notice here that the value here is really the Defender for Servers P1 feature set. And the reason being that to get the full value of Defender for Servers P2, you would still require the Azure Arc agent for additional capabilities, such as the alerting and feature set that you would get with the Azure Monitor agent. So ultimately here, organizations can onboard any non-Azure servers that already have the Defender for Endpoint agent installed and view them in Defender for Cloud. And I really want to emphasize that the server needs to already have the Defender for Endpoint agent. So this feature is not installing the agent on the server. We recognize that organizations already have their own process for doing that. In order for this capability to work, the machine would already have to have the Defender for Endpoint agent. And the last couple of things I want to look at are about updates to other Defender for Cloud plans. So the first thing that I mentioned was the express configuration for SQL VA scanning. And essentially, this is allowing you to, well, first off, with Defender for SQL, there's two main value points. The first one being the advanced threat protection, and the second one being the vulnerability scanning. So with the express configuration for VA, ultimately, we're creating the storage account for you. So previously, customers were required to have a storage account to store the results for vulnerability scanning. But now we take care of that for you. So all you have to do is really just turn on Defender for SQL to get the full value set. The other thing that I mentioned was the billing for Defender for Storage malware scanning. So first off, in order for you to use this capability, you need to be using the latest pricing model for Defender for Storage, which is the $10 per storage account per month. And as I mentioned, in September, we're going to start the billing for malware scanning, which you can see here is 15 cents per GB. And as I mentioned before, to learn more about Defender for Storage and the malware scanning, please definitely join our upcoming webinar where we'll go more into detail about the Defender for Storage offering. The last thing that I wanted to mention here were some changes to the service layer protection plans. So first off, you'll notice that Defender for DNS is no longer on this blade, and that's because customers who are now using Defender for Servers P2 will have access to all the capabilities from Defender for DNS with no additional cost. So you'll notice that you can no longer onboard to Defender for DNS as a standalone plan. All those capabilities are now included in the Defender for Servers P2. If you're already onboarded to Defender for Servers P2, there's nothing you have to do to make sure you get those Defender for DNS capabilities. And then the last thing here, you'll notice that we've changed some pricing here for Key Vault and Resource Manager. So for Key Vault, we're doing a flat price per Key Vault per month, which is shown here. And then for Resource Manager, we're also doing a flat price per subscription per month. So these plans are no longer based on transaction. These are flat prices that would be implemented in the subscriptions. So these were the key things that I wanted to go over here for today's presentation on what's new. So before we get to Q&A, I just want to remind you all to stay up to date with the Microsoft Defender for Cloud community. So we do have a monthly newsletter that shares a lot of these changes as well as additional resources every month. You're also probably aware of our security community where you can sign up for different webinars, same as you did for this one. And with our blog community, we're always sharing different or new blogs covering different scenarios and releases in Defender for Cloud. If you want to hear more about any upcoming private previews or roadmap items, then please join our private preview community. And finally, you'll find some artifacts and our GitHub repo, as well as additional short videos and recordings of past webinars on our YouTube. So we can go ahead here into Q&A.
Okay, great presentation and demo from both of you, Stan and Future. Let me just make sure that I'm broadcasting this. Okay, cool. So lots of questions came in, and the SMEs here that are helping us, they did a great job, and thank you for that. So we still have few that would like to verbalize and perhaps just kind of maybe take a deep dive on them. The first one is, is there a way to exclude specific sensitive information types that are not relevant to an organization?
But I'll take this one. It's a good question. So let me show how to do so. So just want to remind, as I already mentioned, in the beginning of October, we're going to deliver like a deep dive into the data-aware security capabilities, where we walk you through all the configuration steps, tuning, and everything related to sensitive data discovery. But to answer that question, so there is a page on the environment setting page. It's called data sensitivity. So it's a tenant-wide configuration. It's not subscription, it's a tenant-wide. So basically you decide what is considered sensitive for your organization across your tenant. So as you can see here, we have all these sensitive info types, but almost 200 different sensitive info types that Microsoft classification engine has in its database. It's various detection algorithms, I would say, that allows us to discover and detect that sensitive information. So by default for every organization that is getting started, so most of, I would say, these three categories are going to be selected by default, but there is other category which is going to be empty, and you will need to make a decision, what is considered sensitive for your information. So you can include, exclude as you like, right? And then you save that. And so we also support, so this information is coming from Microsoft previous information protection capability. So meaning that we do support also custom information types that you've created in your environment, something that is very specific to your organization. So it could be some regular expression-based detections or keywords or whatnot. So, and this is where you can actually decide what you want Defender for Cloud to discover, right? The same is true for sensitivity labels. If your organization is using sensitivity labels that you also kind of create and configure in Microsoft Purview information protection, so you can configure that on this page and tell Defender for Cloud so which labels you are interested in discovering in your cloud storage. Hopefully this answers these questions. But like I said, so please join us in this deep dive webinar in October. So we'll get into all these details there.
I appreciate the detailed explanation here, Stan. Thank you for that. The next question is, we have someone involved who would like to know the backend process involved for the Defender CSPM agentless secret scanning. If someone could elaborate on that one, would be great.
Actually, yeah, I can do that. So I do have a slide in. So we can find the same kind of picture in our official documentation, but I can really quickly. So the way the whole agentless scanning feature set works is by taking a snapshot of your virtual disks of your virtual machines, AWS EC2 instances, Azure VMs, and GCP virtual machines, and analyzing that and scanning that disk snapshot. Meaning that, so we kind of scan the file system, we discover outdated software, and then we can present some agentless vulnerability assessment result. So this information for vulnerability assessment specifically, so we use Microsoft Defender Vulnerability Management backend, the same thing that is powers Defender for Endpoint or vulnerability management. So meaning that Defender for Cloud, the scanning platform, scans the disk, collects the versions of that files and software, and send it over to MDVM backend for analysis, and that's how you get vulnerability assessment result. When it comes to secret scanning, since we have access again to the file system, we can scan those various configuration files, text files, and discover those secrets. And once the scanning is complete, this disk gets deleted right away. So it it happens within a couple of minutes. And worth mentioning, so from the probably you might have this concern. So this disk snapshot is stored next to your actual machine. It's stored in the isolated environment in Microsoft managed, but at the same time isolated for each customer environment. It never leaves this environment, and the snapshot gets deleted after the scanning is complete. Hopefully this answers this question.
Thanks, Dan, for this, again, deep dive on the CSPM agentless scanning. The next question is related to the container plans. They would like to know what's the difference between the CWP container plan and the CSPM container plan.
Yeah, great question. Was just responding to this one. So first off with Defender CSPM, when you look at the capabilities here, so for the two toggles, you'll see that there's actually an overlap. So agentless discovery for Kubernetes and the container registry vulnerability assessment scanning is available in both plans, which is what's shown by these icons here. And overall with Defender CSPM, this is really looking at proactive security. So things that you need to do today to maintain or improve your cloud security posture. So this is where, we looked at the attack path analysis. So really prioritizing the remediation and showing you recommendations that were applicable to those attack paths. We also looked at the Cloud Security Explorer, which allowed you to do risk hunting and look at different Kubernetes and container security related scenarios through the interactive query. And we saw the vulnerability assessment recommendations, which reported on the vulnerabilities that were detected in ACR and running on your Kubernetes clusters. So that's what's included in Defender CSPM. When we take a look at Defender for containers, you'll see again, those two capabilities are also available here. So it does include the vulnerability scanning. It does include agentless discovery of Kubernetes. It also includes the Cloud Security Explorer for specific Kubernetes related scenarios. But then you'll see there's additional capabilities here that are also focused on threat detection. The key thing here being the Defender daemon set, which is an agent that's deployed on each worker node of the cluster. And this is how we're detecting runtime behaviors and activities on the cluster and detecting any suspicious processes that are running on the cluster. And when we do detect these different scenarios, we trigger an alert that you can view in the Security Alerts tab that shows you a breakdown of what we detected and the different Kubernetes entities that were related to those threats. And you'll also see here the Azure policy for Kubernetes, which is extending the gatekeeper and admissions controller webhook. That's really looking at every request that you're sending to the API server and making sure that those apply to security best practices. And it adds the added benefit of at-scale enforcements. So you can do different things here, like block any images from being deployed that are not from a defined trusted registry, or blocking privileged containers. Happy to share more documentation to this. Of course, we don't have much time to really deep dive into these two different plans, but the key thing here is that Defender CSPM, again, is focused on cloud security posture management. So proactively making sure that your environment is up to security best practices. And then Defender for containers adds the value of threat detection. So being able to detect different suspicious processes and anomalies on the cluster.
Thank you for this. Future, again, another deep dive on the question. That's awesome, being able to demo on the question. And as as Future and Stan mentioned, we'll be having many webinars, deep dive on the storage part, and there's, if you take a look at our security community, aka.ms security community page, we have a list of webinars coming up, so you can register for them just as you did for this one. Again, thank you, Future and Stan, for being our guest today and for sharing the great information with our community. Also, thank you so much to the Q&A team who helped us with answering the questions and providing the resourceful information. And I think as I'm speaking here, I see that they're still answering questions here, so thanks for that. And to all the listeners still on the line, if you're someone who wishes to aid us with the protection of the world from cyber threats, and the desire to have a say in shaping our strategies, blueprints, and recommendations, then we invite you to become part of our security community, because together we can make a global impact. So please join us at aka.ms/security community. That's the place, not that where we post the webinars, but this is also where you'll be notified about any upcoming events and other announcements. Also, please take a minute submitting your webinar feedback at aka.ms/security webinar feedback. And for those of you who may have additional questions on the topic we just covered, or other MDC product related questions, please feel free to raise them on our Microsoft Tech Community discussion space area. That is for MDC. It's the short link for that one is aka.ms/MDC community. And thank you all for being part of our community and for joining us on these webinars. And we hope to see you next time. Goodbye.